Hey, this is Paul with an update on the HDR Light Studio connector for Octane Standalone. The first video gave a brief introduction showing the proof of concept running, and since then implemented some more features. So I thought I'd put together this video just to show where it was at. So the plugin now is a panel within Octane Standalone, or a pane. So it can be docked or undocked. So you can see the controls here. We can drag those controls into a pane on Octane Standalone, and you can then resize it. So you can then save that as your default workspace. So whenever you open Octane Standalone, it will have this pane in the top right here. So we've got, as previously, we've got the start, stop, and the show and hide buttons. So when you start it, it pops up HDR Light Studio. So within the node graph itself, there is a new node called the HDR Light Studio Scene Info, and this contains the XML representing the HDR Light Studio scene. So you can see this is the actual XML representing that scene. So it will remember all your HDR Light Studio information. So this particular scene at the moment has no light. So as we add lights into the scene and light pick them and set the brightness, you'll see that they move around the scene there. So I'll just change that to sRGB to match. So because we have an Alembic file here, we can load the Alembic file into HDR Light Studio. And you'll see that now the camera matches up between HDR Light Studio and Octane Standalone. Now, in the next release of this, there's an even better way of doing that, but I won't go into that at the moment. I'll just remove that ground plane. So now we can add lights into the scene, and these lights appear on the HDR map. A new feature with the current version is that the environment is no longer an actual physical texture map. It is done through just a memory buffer. So as we light pick in HDR Light Studio, it updates the HDR map in the Octane environment, not by writing to a file, just by passing the memory. So it's very, very quick. So you can see that's updating quite rapidly there. So the really cool new feature is the area lights. So I can take this round light here. I might just make it a bit brighter, and I'll give it a color. So I can take this light and convert it to an area light. Now at this point, at the point that it becomes an area light, that will represent a physical geometry mesh item in Octane Standalone. And the way it does that is pretty cool. So you click on area light, and you'll see that the plugin automatically added a new node graph in between the geometry and the mesh pin on the render target. So this is like a pass-through. So whatever mesh you have here passes through this node graph, and you can see it's still got the sphere and the cube there. And to show you that this is an actual mesh, my PC is running very slow running this video recording software. you can see that this is the area light mesh in HDR Light Studio, and you can see there's an actual mesh up here. So we can go, if we double click that node graph, you'll see that there's a geometry out. There's a geometry in, which is the alembic mesh. There's a geometry group, and it's got a pin for each area light. So you'll see that this was this round light here. If I was to convert that to an area light, it would appear on pin 1, and this round light, the red round light here, is on pin number 2 in the geometry graph. So that round light, this is the actual mesh. So you'll see that it has a transform, and the transform has all the rotation, scale, and translation to match the HDR Light Studio area light with the Octane mesh. And then there's the actual geometry. There's also an object layer, so you can turn the visibility off and on manually if you wanted to. And the geometry is just 2 polygons. So if we go in and change, we should be able to look at UV coordinates and the I can't find the wireframe. There it is. So you see the UV coordinates has that mesh with UVs in the range 0 to 1, and it's a bit hard to see there due to the alpha map, the alpha channel, but you can see that there's geometry up there. So as we light pick this bit of geometry, it moves around in Octane Standalone. So you can see it is faithfully moving based on the position in HDR Light Studio. So it's an incredibly neat and effective way of positioning your lights to ensure that you don't have to go around and manually tweak the position of the geometry in Octane Standalone. You can set it all through the HDR Light Studio interface. So even things like so camera visibility, we can turn off and on, and you can see that that goes through to Octane Standalone. The actual dolly multiplier, so we can, oh, that actually takes it further away, but let me get it back closer. You'll see it's now a tiny little light closer. We can set the width to be really wide, and you'll see that that width of that emitter is exactly the same, or is synced perfectly in Octane Standalone there. So that all runs really, really nicely. All the area lights are actually remembered inside this node here. So when you save the Orbx or the OCS file, the XML that represents the area lights is saved, and then when you rerun HDR Light Studio, it will recreate all those lights for you. So there's still a couple of additional things to do, which I'm working on at the moment, but hopefully that gives you a good update of where things are at. Any comments I would love to read or hear. Thanks for watching.